as we know, the human body is incredibly nuanced. You might not be feeling 100%, you might have some kind of illness. And then I think that adaptation and the flexibility within a plan is really important. Yeah. Again, just start with simple habits. So what I get my clients to track is and I will die on that hill. Like it really is the best thing that you can do.
So we want to be able to have people come through our doors with questions, and we want to be able to test them.
You know, in terms of injury risk, it's when people are forcing themselves to do these rigid plans and to train when they're not 100%, and if they've not slept properly, that's when, you know, we can see a lot of injuries occurring. So
and then pick and choose the 2-3 priorities that they should focus on for their current problem.
Okay, I've cooked it.
Hold. You got more, come on.
I actually have a call to take at 12, is that really all right?
So welcome to LDN MEETS podcast. Today I'm joined by Dave Fell. Thanks so much, man.
Great to meet you, man.
Lovely to see you with a coat on. I was expecting you topless and with the apron.
For context, it's mid-February, so, you know.
But you are from York. You probably know Dave from his online videos, from specifically the viral recipes. You only see Dave on your socials, but I wanted to get Dave on the podcast because to me, you've created a community where things are a bit more simplified. You've created challenges, you've created recipes that are easy to follow and potentially more accessible to, like you mentioned, normal people. And I really respect that. And I think in physiotherapy as well, there is value in simplifying things, in finding the priorities for people along their fitness journey. We're going to talk about you, we're going to talk about your brand as well, how you started, what is coaching for you and what coaching community you've created. But yeah, if we can also chat a little bit about how we manage as health fitness professionals, simplify things for our people in this kind of days of over information, of paralysis by analysis. I think there's a real value in making things a bit more simple. Our bodies are complex, our health is complex, but I don't think it has to be complicated. So I think you're a perfect person to kind of chat about this, and I'm looking forward to kind of take you through a few questions.
Me too, mate. It's going to be a fast episode.
Tell me, what actually came first? Was it the community or was it your coaching?
I think it was the sports first, and basically just to give a kind of intro about how I got into it. So I've always loved sports and like anything like that I've always been involved in, but I was a very overweight teenager and that really damaged my self-esteem when I was growing up. Like we all know how savage kids and teenagers could be, and I was quite often at the butt of a lot of those jokes. So yeah, then basically went through my own fitness journey through many wrong methods at the start because I didn't really have a clue about nutrition, but then eventually kind of like fumbled my way and then was able to get progress for myself, really being into sport. And then as I was telling you earlier, like one of my friends moved from Manchester to York, and then, you know, just found it so difficult to make friends outside of work. And so that's when I had the idea to basically try and bring people together through casual sports and social events. Because I think that's what people need in a world that's increasingly online these days. People are really craving that in-person connection. And obviously, I think, you know, instead of just going to the pub and sitting down and drinking and doing stuff that you perhaps shouldn't, it's like, how can we get people socializing outside of that by creating more sports and other events around and stuff like that. So, and then I was like, okay, well, if I want to become a face in the industry, I should start doing my coaching. And as I say, I had my own journey, and then some of my mates started asking me like, oh, Dave, can you help me with this? And I helped them, they got results, and that really sparked a passion for then coaching other people. And yeah, basically got my PT from there, did a bit of in-person personal training, and now here we are fully online and growing a platform and stuff like that these days.
So at what point did you say, you know what, this is going to be my job? This is like, is that a trigger? Was it a point where you're like, you know what I'm doing is actually working?
So I come from a corporate background. That's where I went after uni.
Okay, yeah.
And it's funny because I was actually at at a university lecture, and they played us this video, and they said the most fulfilling career you can have is something where you help other people. And then I kind of took that away, and I was like, right, so I want to help other people. I want a job that's active, that's outside, and I get lots of holidays. So I said to my mum, I'm going to be a PE teacher. And she was like, no offense to PE teachers, but you know, she was like, I think there could be a little bit more there. And then it was during COVID, I actually started like a weekly challenge for my colleagues at work in my corporate job.
Okay, yeah.
And then that got people moving, people losing weight, people were, you know, saying how much it helped with their physical and mental health. And I was doing that on top of my actual job. And I was like, this lights me up so much more than anything that I've done over the last 4 years. And then I had a really bad day during COVID when I was working from home. Studied to do my PT qualification while I was still working, and then one day eventually took the plunge and went all in on coaching, and I can't see any other path for me now. I absolutely love it. Just the day-to-day helping people, that genuinely what lights me up. And you know, it was never about the money or anything like that. It was all about helping people, and I truly believe that if you can provide enough value, then you know, good things will come back to you.
Do you feel you've been able to kind of reach the masses, like you said? You've been able to kind of reach as many people as you wanted. Where do you want this to kind of go? What's next for the community?
Well, as I say, all I try and do is just create as much value as I can. And, you know, it really, how I kind of got started on it, because when I came back from traveling, I spent all my life savings.
Yeah.
I was very overweight and I was needing to get back into fitness. So I basically started creating budget recipes because I had to. And then I was like, right, okay, well, you know, if I need this, then how many other people need this as well? So started creating those budget recipes, and the whole point was just to help one person with every post. And now I'm 1,100 posts down, and gladly, and very gratefully, it's helping hundreds of thousands of people now. But as always, it's just to provide as much free value as I can, and just to keep building and growing. I don't have my main goals aren't around, you know, hitting millions of followers or anything like that. It's just helping as many people as I can.
Yeah, and I think there's a real value in connecting, you know, the fitness community sometimes with the health and physio community. And so I'm looking forward to chat a little bit more about this. So we'll head inside and have a little bit of sit down, and then we can talk about that a bit more.
Sounds good, mate.
We're just chatting about your community out there. And I think people are not necessarily professionals in health, in fitness. They don't necessarily kind of know about the body as much as obviously we do, because we're trained into it. And I think our job sometimes is to simplify what's out there in terms of information, and then putting that to our community.
You know, we're fitness professionals, so this comes very naturally to us. We have an intrinsic motivation to find out more and to study it and to, you know, understand that scientific depth. But we could have all the knowledge in the world, but if we're not simplifying it enough for someone to understand, then there's actually no point in having all that knowledge. Knowledge without action is pretty much useless. So it's all about how do we then simplify all this knowledge that we have and make it easy to digest for people in bite-sized chunks, so they can actually take that away and then start to implement.
In your community, do you feel that there are kind of like barriers to people kind of accessing fitness? Do you feel like there's people tell you know what, at the moment, I'm not too sure if I want to get into a health kind of journey. Do you feel there's something that, holds them back a little bit sometimes?
In a world that's like everything is, all of these people just look up to these influencers or the celebrities they see, and everybody has a 10-step morning routine and fancy water bottles, and they get all their meals delivered in terms of meal prep. I think that creates a lot of barriers, because people see that and that's how they think they should go. But, you know, what I try to teach people is, you know, and I for years was drinking out of the, you know, the 2-litre bottles of squash that you get in the supermarket, just literally having that and filling that up, having one of those throughout the day. So it's kind of like, how do then we take these bits and just say to people, it's like, actually, you don't need this 10-step morning routine. You don't need to do X, Y, and Z and spend all this money on it. It's like, how do we then simplify it and break down these barriers? So that's what we tried to do with like the budget recipes. And for me, one of the most accessible and best forms of exercise is just walking, and I will die on that hill. Like it really is the best thing that you can do. So it's like, until people are told that, then they're kind of left thinking, is it the best? You know, can I get results by doing this? So that's what we're basically trying to do. And again, just take that thinking out of it. And, you know, rather than making it intimidating where someone has to be like, you know, I've seen this person wake up at 6 a.m. and go for a run, instead of doing that, I'd prefer you to have an extra hour in bed and then just do a half an hour walk instead.
Yeah, and I think it's about key principles, right? So you're trying to simplify their journey and finding, okay, well, this is actually what matters. You know, there are key principles in everyone kind of that health and fitness. And sometimes it can be, you know, difficult to kind of like understand which ones are the kind of key principles. You talk about walking. I think to me, daily exercise, nutrition, and then recovery, sleep are those kind of three pillars, right? Obviously, then your three main principles, they need to then be tailored to the individual a little bit, right? And I think this is where coaching kind of comes in. We tend to simplify first, make it understandable, and then tailor. How does it work in your kind of coaching in terms of like, okay, well, I've got this individual and I want them to kind of like walk every day. I want them to can potentially focus on nutrition in a certain way, and recovery in a certain way. How do you kind of make it tailored to their life, if you will?
Yeah, sure. So what I kind of say, and you know, this is something that we work on in depth with our clients, but anybody listening or watching to this, it's the exact same principle. So it's like, think about your week and what that realistically looks like. How many times can you exercise? And again, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to run to lose weight. If you hate running, then absolutely do not do it. You know, you can get the same benefits from going to classes or doing swimming. So I would say, think about how many times you can exercise in a week, and then we'll build it backwards from there.
Yeah.
And again, just start with simple habits. So what I get my clients to track is sleep, aiming for 7+ hours a night, which if anybody's watching and you've got young kids out there, then you guys are forgiven. Like, you can have a bit of a backseat on there. But for anybody else, like, sleep should be one of your main priorities, absolutely. So we track sleep, we track fluid, and I try to get, depending on, you know, how big you are as a person, either 2.5 or 3 liters of water per day.
Yeah.
If you've got a lot of weight to lose, then we'd look to, you know, track calories and protein, but I understand that tracking is not for everybody. So if that is the case, it's like, what basic principles can we put in? Like making sure that we're basing our meals around a source of protein for every time. I don't want to see anybody eating butter and toast as a full meal and calling that breakfast, because you're just going to be reaching for the snack cupboard at 10 a.m. as well. So what simple principles can we build? So I always say 1, 2, 3 method with our meals: 1 portion of protein, 1 portion of carbohydrates, and then 1 or more fruits and vegetables. Feel free to go crazy with fruits and vegetables, very high volume for low calories, so you can bulk it out, and that will improve your health, stop you snacking, and make sure that you're feeling satisfied from your meals. So already there, in terms of, you know, what we're tracking, it's sleep, it's fluid, sometimes calories and protein, but it's not for everybody. If not, then stick to the basic principles, and then working backwards of, what exercise do you like doing? How many times can you fit that into a week? And then we'll build it around from there. And then the final thing we would track is steps. And again, there's kind of this, everybody seems to think there's this magic 10K number, but you know, if Sandra down the road, if she comes to me, she's like, I'm sedentary, I work all day at my desk at home, I only do 3,000 steps a day, then I would say, right, that's a start point. Let's try and just do 2,000 more than what we're currently doing. And for a lot of people, that's 20 minutes of walking. And I think it's really understated the huge benefit that pretty much any population can get from just doing that extra 20 minutes of walking throughout the day. And if you don't have time, it could be micro sessions of 5 minutes of walking, maybe 10 minutes after a meal if you can fit it in. So those 5 things there is what I would say to track in terms of sleep, hydration, your nutrition, exercise, and steps. Once you start to simplify that and tailor that to your lifestyle and your needs, that's going to take care of 90% of what you need.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this powerful, you know, the way you describe it, there's 5 principles, and then you tailor that to the individual that you're coaching. I think we see that in physiotherapy as well. And maybe one of the first things that we tend to tailor is, well, we know that we're coming into your life, you're potentially injured, or you're looking for like a bit more kind of sport performance, and can be guilty as physiotherapists sometimes to come in and bombard them with exercises that they're not able to fit within their life. And I think one of the main things that we tailor here is the amount of stuff that maybe your recovery journey requires in terms of exercise, or the exercise therapy that we're going to give you. We're going to try and streamline to really what, you know, you can fit around your life, and what actually is important for you right now as a patient within the next 6 weeks, let's say, because then you can just focus on the 2 or 3 exercises that are relevant right now, which is going to get you to the next phase, and then we can, you know, tailor to your life in 6 weeks with another set of potential exercise. And I think you touched on that, and that's a great way of, I think, being a good coach is to kind of like have those kind of principles that guide your coaching, but then being able to tailor to each individual. Because I think, you know, sometimes we can be guilty, or the industry may be a bit guilty of making things a bit complex, a bit, you know, over complicating.
100%. And you know, if someone was to come to me and they've got 20 kilograms to lose, that is a very daunting task for them.
Yeah.
For like, oh my God, like how am I going to lose 20 kilograms? I would say, whoa, let's calm it down. Let's just focus on losing that first kilogram. Once we've done that, okay, perfect. Now let's lose the next one and the next one, and you break it down. And I'm sure that you know, with your athletes, if you give them a 15-step stretching routine that takes 20 minutes, that's quite a big barrier to entry.
Yep.
So as you say, it's like, how can we break that down into smaller bits, do a few exercises that we can work in, and then break it down by chunks? And you can find huge benefit in kind of, as I say, as we've said before, is just simplifying that down. What can we focus on in the instance right now?
Yeah.
Nail that, get really good at those basics, and then as we move further down the timeline, we can start adding more and more.
And you use time box challenges for that as well. So your challenges are 6 weeks long, and yeah, I think this is for the reason of making things a bit more bite-sized as well, right?
100%. And some coaches out there might say, well, why are you only doing it for 6 weeks? Like, this should be a lifetime thing. And this is the whole point, because yes, we do it in 6-week blocks. And for me, that is a really good way of breaking it down. Like, I've just personally taken part in my own 6-week challenge that I did with my community. And for me, it's like, I know that I can not have any takeaways. I took some time off alcohol, but if someone had said to me, you have to do that for the next 5 months, I would say, well, no, I don't want to do that. But when we can break it down, like, can I do that for 6 weeks? I'm like, you know what? I think I can actually achieve that. And then you'd be surprised about how much progress you can make in that time. And again, remember, it's not just about that individual block of 6 weeks, because you're starting to embed the habits, you're learning what works for you. Once you start seeing the results, you're like, okay, this is actually really good. Then we can take a little bit of time out. There might be a birthday, there might be a holiday coming up. So you take a little bit of time out, and then, right, okay, now we're into another 6-week block, but it could be 6, 8, 12 weeks. But I wouldn't recommend doing anything longer within like 12-week blocks without a little bit of a mental and physical reset.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if we can break it down into those chunks, that adherence is just going to be so much more beneficial for people, because they can kind of see that fixed endpoint and give them goal towards work towards.
Definitely. Yeah. And I really like the 6 weeks as just as a little kind of like time box kind of thing. Well, I use that in physio a lot as well, where well, it is a bit more backed on kind of research data. We know that, you know, for let's say a muscle to kind of grow, often you need to introduce a certain stress onto it for at least kind of like 6 weeks for things to kind of actually change. Before that, you get better at doing a certain task, a certain exercise, but the muscle actually doesn't really change. But after 6 weeks, you started to have kind of changes that are there for the long term. The muscle architecture changes. And I think that's real valuable in introducing this in rehab as well. Well, okay, well, you know, within 6 weeks, we're going to work on this part of your rehab. And then, like you said, having like a bit of a reset after that was like, okay, you know, try and prevent a bit of physio fatigue as well for people that are with us for, you know, quite a few months after surgery, for example. And that the first 6 weeks, like you say, is going to be focused on that potentially for yourself, or losing the first kind of 2 kilos and then moving away from that. But for us, it might be, okay, well, we're going to get that quads strength up to this sole part, or your symmetry between your operated leg and your good leg down to maybe 20% instead of 30%. So, and then onwards, we then move on to the next sort of stage. And having kind of a little kind of stage like this simplifies rehab as well, like especially long rehab processes that may be like 6-9 months long, into things that people can get, you know, buy into a little bit more and just a bit easier to fit within their life. And I think it comes back to sometimes like programs that are a bit more like opaque, you know, the long kind of like programs that you may kind of buy online. You know, your programs should have a certain goal that you understand, and also a way to get there that you also understand. And sometimes, you know, some programs are a bit guilty and just, you know, sending you an end product, but not really a process there. And I think that's important to kind of move away from those things a bit.
Yeah, and as always as well, goals should be dynamic. Like for a lot of people, when they start their journey, it is about losing a few stone, or it is about rehabbing a certain thing. But once you then start to progress, and once you start to make progress, what we see a lot within my community and within kind of a lot of the people that I work with online is, okay, so initially it was about losing that weight, but the goals are always changing. So it's like, once we start progressing that and working towards that, what we talk about is performance-based goals. So instead of saying, I want to look like Jessica Ennis or, this kind of person, it's like, what can we now set in terms of our targets to then, really change the kind of the goal that we're working towards. So it could be at the start about losing weight, but now with some of my clients, it's like, okay, well, we started on a 20 kg back squat. Can we get that up to 40 kg? Or, we've gone from never running at all. We've done a run and walk split.
Yeah.
Can we now run for 3 kilometers without stopping? And once we then set these performance-based goals, people then start working towards them, and as a byproduct, they're still making their fat loss progress, but they're getting so much more motivated because it's not just about the fat loss, it's about getting fitter. And every time they do a session and they achieve that little milestone, they're more motivated to then continue it. And this is how, yes, we do these kind of little diet phases, but when we talk about specifically our fitness journey, is we get people to zoom out and look at it as a lifetime journey. And it's important then to have these goals because, a lot of people, they're going to arrive at their goal weight and be like, what next? And that's when they can fall back into bad habits. Then that's when they can make things slip. So that's when it's really important to get these performance-based goals into so you're always working towards that next thing.
And I think that's the value of a good coach and potentially a good physio as well, is to kind of help people kind of formulate those goals as well. And like you said, being a dynamic thing, that you have initial goals and you have goals that kind of then grow into different things. And giving the power as well to people to articulate them, but they become a bit more the owner of their own bodies, right? As opposed to the passenger has been taken through many kind of plans and without necessarily knowing what they're into as such.
For sure, and I think what we, in terms of the physio context is, I imagine a lot of your frustration comes from people where, they only see a physio when it's too late, when they've already got injured, and then now it's this process of building back up. But I'm sure what you work on with a lot of your clients is, okay, so now we've rebuilt and we are able to function again, but you've proven that you can work this into your routine. So how do we keep this on an ongoing basis? So it's not just about being reactive to injuries, it's about being preventative and doing it and working it as part of our normal routine. So then you're preventing injuries long into the future.
We would chat about apps and running apps before, and I think it goes with this. I think they have a bad rep at the moment, in the sense that, we see a lot of high-profile kind of injuries and stress fractures. And to me, you can blame the app, but stress fractures were with us, beforehand. It was always part of running. It's an injury it's a type of injury that we've seen all along. But the app does provide a simplification that we talked about, in the sense that you can follow a certain plan, but the tailoring is not there. And obviously, what you said is interesting, because you can then potentially have the running app if you wanted to, but if it's knowing that you can then ask your coach, ask your physio if you are kind of concerned about any pain that you're having, so that you can be guided towards, okay, well, as part of this kind of app, I can do this, but this is actually not for me, not just yet, or I'm not potentially strong enough to do that, or maybe I haven't kind of reached that goal just yet of doing 4 runs a week. And then, my coach, my physio, will tell me I probably should do about 3 maximum for now. So it's those kind of like simplification given by the app is great, but I think having that tailoring is what we're missing. And I think that's really important. You talked about prehab as well, because a lot of what we do is, yes, people are then going to be training for a marathon block through an app, for example, but where we can sometimes be a bit more safe is that before you actually do that marathon block, come in and then spend maybe 6 weeks, 12 weeks, spending a bit more time on strength, building like that foundation for you to then be able to do your marathon block safely, sort of thing.
100%. And the problem or potential issues with a lot of these, and with the increase of AI, we see a lot of people writing in, getting their programs from, say, ChatGPT or whatever it is. These are robots, and they will give you the output that you put in. However, as we know, the human body is incredibly nuanced, and there's going to be so many factors that are affecting how you're training that day. You might have had a stressful day at work, you might not be feeling 100%, you might have some kind of illness. So how are we then adapting to these sessions? And I think that adaptation and the flexibility within a plan is really important for the aforementioned reasons. And, you know, in terms of injury risk, it's when people are forcing themselves to do these rigid plans and to train when they're not 100%, and if they've not slept properly, that's when, you know, we can see a lot of injuries occurring. So I think, you know, for anybody who is following these kind of plans, just also listen to your body and how that's feeling. And if you are unsure about how to do that, then that's potentially when it's time to reach out to someone, even if it's just a friend, and just say that I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed by this plan. Yes, I did tell it I want to do 4 runs a week, but my shins are starting to hurt, my hips I'm starting getting knee pain, and I think it's really important. And we ask you guys, if you're listening to this, to kind of recognize that within yourself, and that's when we need that flexibility.
What do you do when someone, let's say, is having a bad week or is having to skip a week, for example? What do you tell them? How do you manage that?
So I would always say, okay, well, what's the minimum requirement for what we need? Okay, so we've got, in our program, we've got 3 gym sessions and we've got 2 runs, but they're having a really stressful week. They're getting absolutely slammed by their boss. So it's like, okay, well, what's the minimum thing that we can still do that will protect your mental health and also move us towards our goals? And as I've mentioned before, a lot of that is going to be a 20-minute walk. And I would say to someone, if you are exhausted, your kids you know, are being really stressful, your husband's giving you it in the back of the neck, it's like, okay, well, maybe a 1-hour gym session isn't the best thing for you right now. Maybe just a 20-minute walk, clear your head, play some nice music, and do the things that you love. That could do so much more for your health in the long term than trying to push through a session. So have a think to you, for yourself, what does that minimum requirement, just to keep the needle ticking in the right direction, how does that look for you?
And I like that. And I think like a default or day sometimes as well, you can like fall back onto. So, you know, and in this time of like highly sort of stress periods, I'm going to wake up at this time, I'm going to wear this t-shirt and this trouser. So I'm removing decision a little bit from my day. So I'm going to be super stressed because of this at work, etc. So whatever I can take away from in terms of decisions during my day to day is going to be useful for me. And like you said, you're falling back onto the minimum. So, you know, if I can't do my plan, I've got the minimum I can fall back onto. I've got the default day I can fall back onto.
That's a fantastic point you make there about removing that decision, because it's been proven in studies that humans have a, you know, limited willpower throughout the day. So if you are, you know, a fat loss client and you're in the office and Sandra brings in a tray of donuts, it's like that's testing your willpower, because you have to actively say no. And then you only have a certain amount of that before eventually you might give in to something that you didn't want to particularly do. So to your point, if you know you want to get up and go for a run in the morning, can you leave your shoes by the door? Can you get your workout clothes ready, leave them by the side of your bed, so you know, you're ready and you don't have to decide what to wear, and little things like this. Get your headphones ready. If you want to get more into reading, perhaps you could leave your book on the pillow when you make your bed in the morning. And that means that you have to make a conscious decision to not read when you go to bed, because you have to remove the book and not read. So it's like, what are these micro things that you can do throughout the day that just make that your life that little bit easier to start with healthy habits?
And I think to come back to the owner of your own body, having those kind of strategies when things go wrong to fall back onto, knowing them and working them with your coach, working them with your physio, and you're like, okay, well, yes, I'm going to follow in this plan and I'm on this journey, but things happen. And if things happen, I know what to do. I know what to look for in terms of signs of potentially injuries, or but I also know how to remove stress from my life, or at least kind of try and make things a little bit easier, so I can just like fall back onto my minimum, so that day or my minimum week for a while until I come back on there. And that sort of like power of kind of adaptability, I think, is what a good coach and a good physio can give you. And I think that's what good brands and good communities will kind of drive as well. So you obviously kind of, you've created your own community for that reason, you wanted to kind of give the ability to have structure for people. If you describe maybe what a typical week for your community is like.
Alongside the online coaching and the recipe kind of thing, so I also set up Fellow Fitness Community, which is basically all about getting people to be more social and to be more active through casual sports, because once you leave university or school, it's very, very difficult as an adult to, one, find people to play with, but also unless you join a team, which you have to be committed financially and from a time point of view, it's very difficult to find these kind of places to do it. So Fellow Fitness Community is all about, okay, so on Monday night we're playing netball at this time, pay your money, all the equipment's provided, and then we'll see you next week. And it's building that community. So in terms of providing that structure, that might across a week look like netball on a Monday, Tuesdays volleyball, Wednesdays badminton, and Thursdays rounders. But it's just like, we understand that not everybody's going to do that, but just providing that space for then people be like, okay, well, I'm interested in this, and it's coming. It's like, well, you know, badminton's not for me. It's like, absolutely fine, no problem at all. We just want to try and cater for everybody. And as I say, I think in a world that's increasingly online these days, I think people have never been so isolated in terms of in-person connection. And I think it's really important. And what I talk about a lot is, you know, I'm not going to prescribe someone 3 runs a week if they hate running. I want to try and get people to exercise not just to burn calories, but for enjoyment, for the social aspect, for, you know, to protect your mental health, and to, as I mentioned before, get that sense of self-esteem when you're working towards goals, or you're maybe getting a little bit more competent at paddle or something that you've never played before. So I just want to try and provide as many opportunities as possible, because I think that's what we need these days.
And you managed to do that in London and in York, or?
Yeah, so I'm originally from York, although I'm talking a little bit posher than I usually would today, because otherwise people won't understand me. But yeah, so originally from York, and that's been going for 4 years up there. And then I moved to London to basically expand. And honestly, it's one of the best decisions I ever made, because the connections and the people down here are amazing. As bad a rep as London sometimes gets, I've found it to be absolutely incredible. And just Clapham Common, for example, like, you can just be playing any kind of sport and then someone will be like, oh, this looks really fun, can I come and join in? And I genuinely don't know many other places in the world where you can get that. So so yeah, York and London is where we operate right now, but hopefully a national expansion is on the cards.
Nice. So as you grow, and obviously you're giving that structure, you're providing that structure to your community, and there's going to be challenges to growing, right? What do you expect growing to be, or the challenges of growing your brand might be?
Yeah, so, and this is something that we were speaking about off camera. It's like, when it's your branding, it's your baby. As obviously you're a founder of London Physio, sometimes it's very difficult to give that control, because whenever I'm like, I'm fortunate enough to have some absolute legends that host my events in York, and they're such amazing people. But in London, it's like, I'm down here, so I know what I can do. I know like I can do a good job for it and stuff like that. So sometimes the biggest difficulty is just being able to relinquish that responsibility and trust other people with it. But obviously, in order to be able to grow the brand and help more people, which is the overall mission, you kind of have to accept that at some point you're going to have to get the right people in. But yeah, getting the right people is sometimes very difficult, but I'm very fortunate in that. So I don't know, how have you found it in terms of your experience with obviously trying to do the same thing?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you'll base yourself initially on, you know, values and a common goal as a team that you want to provide, obviously, and as you then grow into 2, 3, 4, 5 locations, it's about the people that you bring in. I think at the end of the day is if you're able to kind of bring people that have the same values and the same sort of like shared mission as yourself, then you can systemize, you can delegate, you can have, you know, everyone working together in that sort of like shared mission sort of thing. But you're right, it's about finding those amazing people to kind of be able to be lucky enough to kind of work with. But these people will then carry that brand, and they'll help you kind of on your mission. But it can be difficult, and I think where maybe in the past it was a bit difficult is where, you know, you are the face of a brand. So when we created LDN, there was the 3 of us, and people were, oh yeah, I want to see Manny, I want to see Johnny, I want to see Nick, because, you know, they are the founders, I guess. But you know, we've got physios that are much better at some stuff that I am, for example, and I want to be able to kind of like portray that, to showcase that to people. I want to build trust not only in us but in the whole team, because you know, there's real value in doing that, and you might be better off seeing Danny for potentially MOT than myself, because his training, his kind of experience is amazing for what your problem is. But yeah, it is sometimes a bit difficult kind of moving away as the face, and you probably kind of find that as the face of your own community, right?
And I think that's a fantastic point you raised in terms of, you know, a lot of these people, you know, when they start, and you know, me as well, it's kind of my brand is called Fellow Fitness Community, and that I always thought I wanted my name on everything. But as I've developed in this journey, I've realized that that's not really important to me. I would rather get the right people in and be able to help. And you know, in terms of you know, my coaching, I obviously try and be empathetic towards everybody, but at one point I would love to get kind of like a middle-aged woman that has kids, because obviously I can say as much as possible, I can do my research about the menopause and the cycles and all the things like this, but sometimes people want someone that's actually experienced. And I think it was a Greek philosopher that said, and I'll butcher this quote, is like, only an idiot thinks they know everything. And I think it's a really valuable point. Is like, I'm very aware that I've still got so much to learn, and I think it would be really idiotic to disregard other people and their professional experience and their knowledge and their ability as well. Because if you want to go, it's like that quote, it's like, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And as I've kind of developed in this journey, I've really recognized the importance of that, and building a network and being able to pull people in for different things. I just think there's incredible value in that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, just talking to you and kind of seeing how you kind of work as well, I think this is something that I really kind of respect the way you've created it, and I think the pillars are there for you for that brand to kind of grow. And but you're right, it's sometimes realizing that actually bringing the team will actually get you even further. For sure. We've seen that, you know, value creation as health and fitness professionals definitely goes through prioritization, so simplifying. I think this is the main sort of angle here. You mentioned about potentially having a few issues with your hips. We did that off camera, right? And a lot of things that what we do here at LDN is to try and to simplify the process of understanding why you potentially have niggles and pain, and why you're not potentially performing the level you want to, or how to actually perform better than you currently are. So we created sort of MOTs, we call them MOTs, also analysis, with that in mind. So we want to be able to have people come through our doors with questions, and we want to be able to test them, to bring data into their assessment, and then pick and choose the 2-3 priorities that maybe they should kind of focus on for their current problem over the next 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 months towards their goal. So if that's okay, I'll probably kind of put you through a bit of an MOT.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody, just to give a bit of background, I've got chronically bad hips, like insanely poor hip mobility. Seen a physio a long time ago who said I've got long femurs, which is the thigh bone. So yeah, I've struggled pretty much all my life with chronic poor hip mobility, and you know, it's kind of one of those things that doesn't impact your quality of life until it does. And I was just giving you examples that I can't ride on the back of a motorcycle because my hips literally won't allow me. And you know, this is something as a health professional that I find a little bit embarrassing sometimes. But you know, I've started to make the moves to improve that. And just to give a real life example, like I have tried so many times to like implement a stretching routine, but I've finally found that doing it in my rest sets in the gym, into like, because when I do my compound exercises like my bench press or my shoulder press, I've got a few minutes there, so I'll just start stretching, and that's been really great for me to start that journey. But just like someone who has 20-30 kgs to lose, I've got a long road ahead of me, so I would love any help in terms of doing that, and again, just like starting with those simple bits to improve, and then see how that can have a compounding impact over time.
So what you're gonna do is you're gonna basically a single leg hip thrust into the bar. The bar is not gonna move, okay? And you're gonna hold that for 5 seconds, all right? And the point of it is to get to your max power, so you peak force, okay? But expressing it as quickly as you can, as hard, as fast as you can. Okay, we're gonna do 3 tries per leg, ideally here, hovering.
Hovering.
Yeah.
Oof.
Okay.
Okay.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go! 1, 2, push it. 3, 4, 5, relax. Good man. I'm gonna go finish the get rid of.
Left to right on the first try, and then we've got 10% on the second try and 1% on the third try.
Stronger.
So generally left a little bit stronger, but then we have to look at this. Force production at about 100. Another important thing to look at is the impulse. It's kind of like rate force development, force per time, okay? Quite symmetrical, symmetrical, and symmetrical on this one.
Okay, now it's a steady. Shift on 1, hold it, and jump. Nice. Jump height, very symmetrical. Then we're looking at landing force, how well you're able to absorb the landing and dissipate force when you land. Okay, obviously both the symmetry but also the value. This is about 9%. The value, I would say, could be a little bit better, but it's quite good.
Okay.
Okay. And whenever you go up,
just
I'll
like-
start. Cool. Yeah.
Is
Perfect.
that all right?
That's perfect. Yeah.
We have over-egged it a little bit. Let's see.
I didn't want to say anything, but
Let's do it. Usually you don't have the other leg raised. All right, you ready?
all right, let's go.
3, 2, 1.
Hips forward towards me. That's it.
Okay, I've cooked it.
Hold it. Hold. You got more. Come on. Yeah. Now that's it. Done.
There I say this is easier.
Yeah, I would say so. Then the leg lifted.
Yeah, the leg lift, that was, like usually I would back myself to do over a minute. So
There you go. Keep it going. Hips forward. Don't drop.
I actually have a call to take at 12, does that mean you're all right? I would say more discomfort than pain.
Yeah. Just check in here. Yes, a little bit limited here, but not too bad. From a mobility point of view, it's interesting how you kind of utilize your lumbar area, so your lower back, as a way of compensating for that. So you fall into flexion very quickly. When you force into internal rotation or finding more mobility, you're actually potentially putting the hip on more stress. And I probably would recommend things where you are mobilizing the thoracic spine in combination with the hip as an exercise to then help with that. You've got your ability to kind of like reach max strength is a bit delayed, then you don't protect the hip joint through that pop-up sort of thing. What we kind of like potentially work on is might actually be your ability to kind of get to max strength. Thanks so much for coming down, Hunt.
Thanks for having me.
I think it was a great chat, and there's a lot to kind of take from that. If people want to follow you, obviously I'm going to put all the links, but what's next for FFC?
FFC, just try and grow to as many locations as you can, and again, just helping many people as possible. Dave Fell Fitness on Instagram or Fell Fitness Community if you're more interested in the sports and social side.
Yeah, and then maybe we can work together.
That'd be class.
So much. And
Thanks for having me.
Cheers, guys. Cheers. Thank you.